The Disney Plus series Ahsoka is kicked off with a double lightsaber strike of episodes full of plot developments and nods to Star Wars lore. Here's all the big stuff and some of the little stuff too. The last viewers saw of Ahsoka and Sabine together was in the finale of Star Wars Rebels. Ezra stayed aboard Thrawn's ship to ensure he was defeated once and for all as they disappeared. This allows the Rebel forces to destroy the command center and carve out a victory, but Ezra is still lost in the wind. The ending sees Sabine and Ahsoka joining forces to look for Ezra, despite how much of a long shot that is. While it's a hopeful conclusion, their relationship clearly turned sour between Rebels and Ahsoka. After consulting with Hera, Ahsoka visits Sabine, thinking her artist's eye could help her figure out how to access a map she secured at the beginning of the episode. Sabine is intrigued, but doesn't want to spend too much time around Ahsoka, so she steals a map and goes back to her hideout to work on it. The only problem is that Morgan Elsbeth instructs Shin Hati, the apprentice of Baylan Skoll, to travel to Lothal to get the map Ahsoka took. Sabine's lightsaber skills are rusty, and Shin is far too powerful. Not only does Shin manage to get the map from her, she deals a nasty blow to Sabine's stomach, severely wounding her. Luckily, Sabine survives the attack and recovers in a medical center. Sabine manages to figure out that the map depicts a pathway between 2 points, but she doesn't get a good look at what those 2 points are before Shin attacks. More information comes to light when Shin, Baylan, and Morgan Elsbeth visit a site designed by an ancient people from a distant galaxy. They look at an enlarged version of the map that Sabine saw. A pathway connects one galaxy to another, and the destination is Grand Admiral Thrawn's whereabouts. Thrawn's return has long been teased. He didn't exactly die at the end of Rebels, and he's been brought up a couple of times in The Mandalorian. Ahsoka seeks information about him in Chapter 13, The Jedi, and his name comes up again in Chapter 23, The Spies, when Moff Gideon meets with the Shadow Council.
Grand Admiral Thrawn's return will herald in the re-emergence of our military.
Thrawn's return to the galaxy has been heavily sought, with the word war coming up repeatedly throughout the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka. Remnants of the Empire remain, and this will surely play a role in the eventual revival of Emperor Palpatine and the rise of the First Order. But what role will Thrawn play in all of this? That remains to be seen, as Baylan mentions a path forward is clouded. It'll take more work for anyone to travel to Thrawn and Ezra's coordinates, and Ahsoka is hot on their trail. Despite losing the map, Ahsoka isn't going down without a fight. While Sabine recovers, Ahsoka and Hera travel to Corellia, where one of the droids came from. Fans likely recall Corellia is the home planet of Han Solo. It's a shipyard for the New Republic after the fall of the Empire, which makes the presence of such a droid suspect. All Imperial technology should have been dismantled, but the rebellion didn't succeed in wiping out the Empire completely. Ahsoka and Hera get a good deal of dubious information from Min Weaver, who discusses how Imperial assets were taken in by the Republic, and those who worked for the Empire now work for them. This clearly doesn't sit well with Ahsoka and Hera, as they question former Imperial's loyalty. Their suspicions are confirmed, and they're attacked while trying to prevent a transport carrying a HK-class droid from departing. The ship gets away, but not before Hera and Chopper manage to get a tracking device on it. The sequel trilogy establishes the First Order as a new threat, and the second episode of Ahsoka provides a trail of crumbs showing how these nefarious forces were able to regain power so quickly. Their loyalty doesn't merely extend to whoever's paying them. Numerous people work behind the scenes to circumvent the New Republic.
It's not loyalty. It's greed.
The New Republic, assuming former Imperials would fall into line, will prove to be its undoing. The machinations that will allow Morgan Elsbeth to reach Thrawn are already underway, and when she checks in with Baylan and Shin, she reveals how the installation of the final hyperdrive is currently in the works. Once it's complete, the Eye of Sion will allow Morgan and the other antagonists to reach Thrawn. This ties into the scenes on Corellia. While the Republic wanted to use Imperial technology for its own uses, the fact people still loyal to the Empire continued to work on it meant Morgan could still acquire what she needed. Fortunately, Ahsoka and the team aren't giving up that easily. Hu Yang informs them how the ship that had a tracker placed on it ended up in the Denab system. That ship was carrying a hyperdrive core, which is likely what Morgan needed to finish a ship. The bad guys may have what they need to reach their goals, but a reunited Ahsoka and Sabine are on the way. Throughout the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka, there's animosity between Ahsoka and Sabine, but Sabine appears to let go of the past to move forward and try to rescue Ezra. At the end of episode 2, Sabine cuts off her hair, puts on her Mandalorian armor, and joins Ahsoka in a quest to the Denab system. Ahsoka even refers to Sabine as Padawan, the Jedi term for an apprentice. Sabine is well acquainted with Padawans. Ezra studied under Kanan Jarrus in Star Wars Rebels. She wielded a lightsaber in a fight against Shin. but that hardly means she could be considered a Force user. Throughout Star Wars Rebels, Sabine is around several Force users, but never demonstrates the ability herself, and she's past the age where most become aware of their powers. There's still evidence from Star Wars Rebels and other properties that Sabine could be Force-sensitive though. Ahsoka is just getting started after all. Now that we've covered the major plot points, we can get to some of those sneaky Easter eggs throughout the episodes. Right off the bat, there's a black-tinted 3PO unit on the ship transporting Morgan Elsbeth. This protocol droid gets a frankly disproportionate amount of love from the camera. Even after it gets destroyed, Huyang casts a pointed look at its wrecked torso. The droid's distinctive paint job is clearly a nod to 000. The pitch-black torture droid hails from the Star Wars comics, combining C-3PO's verbosity and unassuming appearance with the mind of an unrepentant sadist. Naturally, the droid tends to hang out with the equally villainous R2-D2 lookalike BT-1. It's unlikely that this particular black 3PO unit we see in Master and Apprentice will gain a pair of red eyes and become 000, but the visual similarity seems to be no accident. In the Clone Wars, Ahsoka was known to use her lightsabers to create improvised entrances in the floor or ceiling. By the time of Ahsoka, she's honed this skill into an art form. An early cool moment in the series premiere features Ahsoka using the Force to spin her lightsabers around her, cutting a hole in the ground in order to enter a hidden chamber. The moment serves as a clear callback to the Clone Wars, but as it turns out, it's just the beginning. When enemy droids turn up and challenge her for the map she just obtained, she busts out the move again by jumping back into the chamber and literally undermining multiple opponents by spin-cutting the floor from underneath their feet. The smirk on her face just before she pulls this off reveals what a huge flex this is. It seems that she's just delighted to find an excuse to use her classic trick from the animated series. The mood takes a sudden turn when Home One contacts Ahsoka's ship to deliver the news that Morgan Elsbeth has escaped. There's also a moment of huge significance to fans of the Star Wars animated series when Huyang answers Home One's call and mentions Ahsoka's codename.
Come in, Home One. This is Fulcrum. Over.
Fulcrum is the designation of an important and influential faction of rebel agents who contributed heavily to toppling the Empire. Their ranks have included heavyweights like Cassian Andor. As it happens, Ahsoka is the creator of the Fulcrum system and the most prominent agent to use the moniker, so it's both incredibly cool and extremely fitting that the title lives on as a callsign. When Governor Ryder Asadi gives his big speech on Lothal, there's a weirdly cartoonish mural in the background. It's seen even more clearly in the second episode, when Sabine looks at it right after cutting her hair. Its art style clashes with basically everything we've seen in live-action Star Wars. But that's the point, isn't it? This work of art is quite possibly the most obvious nod to the fact that Ahsoka owes everything to the animated shows that came before it. Known as the Spectre's Mural, Sabine Wren painted this mural of the titular squad near the end of Star Wars Rebels, and visited it just before embarking on a journey to find Ezra Bridger with Ahsoka. The mural's Rebels-accurate appearance in Ahsoka essentially confirms that the show isn't hiding its roots. That's made even more clear when Ahsoka's T6 Jedi shuttle flies over Sabine's tower, in a nearly shot-perfect recreation of a moment from the final episode of Rebels. In The Mandalorian, Morgan Elsbeth rules the city of Caladan as its magistrate, and she's surprisingly tough. Armed with little more than an attitude and some serious skills with a Beskar spear, she puts up a decent fight in the climactic samurai-style showdown with Ahsoka. The first episode of Ahsoka reveals that she's more than just Thrawn's old lackey. She casually mentions that she's also one of the Nightsisters of Dathomir.
You're a witch. A survivor.
This powerful group of Dark Force users was an ominous presence in the Clone Wars, though they seem to be largely extinct by the time Ahsoka takes place. Still, the offhand revelation that the former magistrate is a member of this ancient sect is a nice little addition that serves to further connect the animated Star Wars shows and the live-action ones. After Sabine is injured, Ahsoka visits Sabine's home to get more information. Ahsoka hears a drawing of lightsabers and the two women speaking to each other. This power goes by many names in Star Wars, but most probably know it as a Force Echo. It's also been called Sense Echo, Psychometry, and Retrocognition. This is a Force ability that allows the users to obtain information about events or people through a location or object. In this instance, Ahsoka is able to hear what happened during Sabine and Shin's fight. The Force Echo has a history in the Star Wars Legends timeline, which Disney uncanonized when it pursued news stories for film and television. However, aspects of Legends have made their way into new stories, and the Force Echo was officially re-established in Star Wars lore within the Hunt for Zero episode of the Clone Wars. Many will likely know about the Force Echo from the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor video games as well. After realizing how much she needs Ahsoka, Sabine heads back home and takes out the Mandalorian armor. Star Wars Rebels establishes this armor is over 500 years old, but Sabine naturally puts her own spin on it. Ever the artist, Sabine colored various plates with bright, vibrant colors, making them uniquely her own. One pauldron bears a Rebel Alliance Starbird logo. The other should be a delight for anyone who watched Rebels. Throughout the animated series, Sabine painted various animals on her left pauldron. The final battle with Thrawn features Purgil, essentially space whales that can leap through hyperspace, taking Thrawn's Star Destroyer away to unknown regions with Ezra on board. The final moments of Rebels reveal that Sabine has painted a Purgil on that pauldron. It seems like she hasn't changed it in the years since, potentially demonstrating how Sabine turned her back on the Mandalorian way for a long time. To head into a dangerous future, she must don the armor once more.